Ladies and gentlemen, let's go. Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at?
Well, actually, I live in Delaware now, so does that make me a Delawarean?
Sing it, girl.
You know, Beyonce is my friend in my head. They my people sometimes, too.
Yeah. I mean, be true, man.
You know, when I was a kid, I had an imaginary enemy. Like, does that make me crazy?
Life as P, presented by Say What Radio.
Hey guys, what's up? This is Life as P. I'm your host, Phoenix Ash. If this is your first time joining me, thank you so much for giving me a shot. If you are a return listener, I appreciate you. I know I say it all the time, but I definitely appreciate you. I appreciate the opportunity to share my thoughts, share what I'm learning on my journey, share my journey in itself. Thank you. I appreciate it as a writer, as an author, speaker. I have a lot to say and it's wonderful to have an audience to say it to. So I definitely appreciate that. Usually I talk about like my theme for the week or things that have happened within the past few days that are on my mind that I've gotten some band of thoughts about. I was having a conversation with my girlfriend who is also a writer. And we're talking about some things that have happened that bothered me throughout my writing journey. And it reminded me of the several situations where I sort of bonded to someone who was in the industry that I was in, who presented themselves as someone who could help me further my career or nurture my talent or just give me a place to grow and connect and learn from someone. And I realized, because I have to realize certain things over and over again. Some things it's not just like one realization. Sometimes I have to be taught the lesson a couple of times or reminded of the lesson that I had learned. And what I was thinking about was that a lot of those people basically took advantage of what I was putting on the table. I had been so doubtful of my talent. I had so many questions about what I was capable of doing and how I would be able to execute. I was always very unsure of what the actual talent was. I've always been a writer. As a child, I wrote poetry, I wrote stories, I wrote rhymes. I've always been a writer. And it took me years, probably over 20 years, before I was able to admit that I was nice when it came to rhyming. It took me a long time. And I'm telling you, I was rhyming from like childhood. So I was an adult when I finally was able to say, okay, I think I'm good. And when I started to claim my journey as an author, it took a while for me to see what I can do. And even now, I sometimes question it. You know, I get a bad review and I'm just like, oh my God, am I that horrible? Am I that bad? Maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. I still have those moments of self-doubt. And I snap out of it and be like, man, bye. But when I look back on it, sometimes I have to come to myself and say, you know, maybe you're even more talented than you think you are, because there are people who have come into your life, have like listened to your ideas, listened to you tell a story or have you outline a story. And next thing you know, similarities are showing up in their stuff and they've basically cut you off. Or they've stopped talking to you, or they've decided that whatever way they was going to promise to help you in one aspect, they are no longer going to do it. I had a boyfriend who was like that, had this whole idea of this business that he wanted me to run for him once he got this big bag. He was getting a bag. At that time, he wasn't calling it the bag. It was just money. But he was going to set up this business. He wanted me to run this business because he loved how my mind was running, and he wrote music, and every night he would come home and he would go over the music that he was writing. I basically would edit it. He would have me listen to it. I would say, no, not that line. What about this line? It wasn't even like I was like, yes, no. I was given options, suggestions, and some of them were taken. But when it came down to it, when the bag dropped, so did the relationship. It dropped. And regardless how supportive I was or how much of a go-getter or business-minded he thought I was to begin with, at the end of the day, I wasn't truly what he wanted or whom he wanted to have stand beside him. And so he took another path. Unfortunately for him walking down that path had him come face to face with a whole slew of people who weren't nearly as loyal as me, who did not have his best interests at hand. And he failed to become the huge success he was on track to be. And I'm not saying that, I'm so important that you couldn't become that person because I wasn't by your side. What I'm saying is people like me are so important to have by your side that if you are the type of person who turned 3 or 4 of me's away, then you have basically cut off your own feet on your journey. You who are listening, you might be the person, and you know what I'm talking about if you're like this, that you are so supportive. You're in the background. You're trying to figure out how to make the money flip. You trying to figure out how to take this another step further. You trying to be the cheerleader. Not just a co-signer. You are truly listening and understanding the craft, and you are giving thoughtful suggestions. You are doing your research. You are looking at the pattern of people around you and how they have made it and all of that. And you're contributing all of that. And you have this person in your life who is just like, yeah, but that grass look real green. So they go over there and you watch them dwindle. You watch them become specks in the soil because it's like they went over there for something superficial and not even bright enough to even double back and apologize. I ain't even saying double back and come back because you probably not trying to have them. But just really recognize like, damn, I really messed up. But you watching them do it over and over and over again. You watch them come into contact with more people who have your same values, who can offer them the value. Like, if I couldn't do it, that person could do it. That person could really help them. And you see them turn that person away too. And it's like, damn, I don't want to speak ill over your life and say you ain't never going to get to where you going, but you are making that road real difficult. And so I've had that kind of situation. I've had the situation where I bonded with a writer and we talked every day and I poured into her career, and some stuff I ain't know what I was doing. Some stuff I ain't know what I was talking about, but we bonded, and I realized some stuff she ain't know what she was doing and some stuff she ain't know what she was talking about. Because her too, like she just not in the position that she was back then, but is the taking advantage of, the listening to me talk, giving me ideas. And because honestly, I don't execute as quickly as I should, at least what I believe I should. I will have an idea for a very long period of time. I will talk it through. I will try to work it out. Now, that could be why a lot of times when people read my work, they say, it looked like you took your time with this, or there was some time and caring. And it's like, yeah, because I've been thinking about that joint for like years. So that's why when I wrote Delectable, it was so awesome to me, because that's the idea that came to me a few months ago. And so for me to pull it together and put it in a book and be able to publish it and all of that, and my publisher to even accept it, and the feedback to be, for the most part, so wonderful and so quick. As an author, sometimes we got to beg for people to leave a review. So the fact that it's happening much more quickly than I have ever seen with myself before is amazing to me. I have these ideas for a long period of time, and I don't necessarily execute right away, which sometimes gives people the pass or the opportunity to jump in and think they're executing for me. Now, even if I go back and turn around, I may feel some kind of way like, yo, you did something too similar or whatever. What I do understand is that there is something with me. You and I could do the same thing, but because you are present or because I am present, it makes it different. It had taken me a while to accept that, because I would always feel some type of way when I saw my idea or some smidget or some glimpse of my idea being executed, particularly by people that I know I've discussed it with. Now, I'm not going to lie to you and say I don't still feel some type of way when I see that. I do feel some type of way. However, I know now that it does not stop me from being able to execute my idea, because you don't have the nuances, you don't have the little details, you don't have my kind of know-how. Just like I don't have your know-how, you don't have my know-how. I know something. I may not know it all. I may not know everything you know, but I know something. And there's something I know that you don't know. Trust me, when we start combing through the weeds, there got to be something I got that you ain't got. And that's what's going to show up in my work. I just wish people had more integrity, but hey. But it really got me to thinking about how people are in each other's lives and just soaking up everything. And I do feel like sometimes it's unintentional. You may talk to somebody about an idea, something, and 5 years later, 10 years later, 3 months later, they may not even realize where their new idea came from. They don't remember the conversation, or they've convinced themselves that their idea is so different from yours that it's not the same. So it's okay. And that's fine, because like I said, you're going to be different. But if you are somebody who is in somebody's life just soaking up stuff for them so you could feel like you got something to use because you can't rely on your own sense to put something together, yo, you whack, yo. For real, I just been thinking about the people in my past, and it was like, it's so difficult to step to the plate and just tell them like, yo, you sour, yo. Word. Because you try to give everybody the benefit of the doubt, and you're like, they didn't do it intentionally, or you know how ideas are. There's so many people who have the same idea, but when you see like extra detail that's similar, you just like, yeah, you right. But it's okay. And I say the reason why I'm sharing all of this with you guys is because the road to following our dreams and following our passions is going to be bumpy sometimes. And it's not going to always be the kind of bump where nobody is supportive. Sometimes those bumps are the people who appear to be supportive of people who are stealing your ideas, or who are speaking as though they came up with stuff. It's going to get bumpy. It gets bumpy sometimes. Or the person who is your cheerleader in your face and behind your back, they're snickering, or behind your back, they're talking about you. Yeah, it get bumpy like that. It does. I don't think for 1 minute that there's nobody sitting somewhere having these side conversations about, and not that I'm so important that you need to have these side conversations, but I do know that when people don't have enough stuff to do with themselves, or when they doubt their own means of success, when they doubt their own journey, when they haven't fully delved, whatever, into themselves and pulled out that thing that is so spectacular, when they think that there's nothing in there for them to find, they find fault with you, or they take what you got. Robberies tend to take place when you got something that people believe they can't get, that they could not get on their own. Very few robberies happen because somebody is just like, I mean, I could buy that, but nah, I'd rather take yours. Very few. I know I ain't do no research and get no numbers, but trust, I'm from Brooklyn. I know where robberies come from. But seriously, there's going to be time you're going to come up against people who are going to appear to be in your corner, and months later, years later, you're going to find out they're not. I have old friends that we were so close, so close. And as long as you checking in and you saying, hi, how you doing? Everybody's all friendly. When you start being like, well, I have a book that dropped, or I'm doing some business venture or whatever, everybody get quiet. Like, ask me how I'm doing, but don't ask me to physically support you. Don't ask me to visibly support you. Now, there was a time where that thing used to crush me. I had a friend recently that I was like, yo, I want to catch up. And I guess they don't want to catch up with me because they ain't reply. And maybe I did something foul back in the day. I can't act like I never did anything foul. I used to be quite foul. So they don't want to catch up. But I can't get hurt by that. I can't get crushed by that. I have to be able to know that I'm on a particular road. I'm on a particular path. I'm doing my thing. I am investing in myself. I am putting the work in. I'm studying my craft. I'm learning from other people who are doing my craft. I'm sitting at their feet. I'm listening to the jewels that they're pouring out. I am reading their work. I'm trying to figure out what nuances work for them, what nuances work for me. I'm trying to weave in all their methods of success with the ones that I will create for myself. I don't have time to get all up in a tizzy because someone thinks that either I'm the person to smile in the face and talk behind their back, or they think that I am just vulnerable enough to take what's mine. The great thing about talent and the great thing about being wise enough to know that you need to constantly work at your craft, that you can't just simply rely on talent. You need to work at your craft. And the third aspect of it, I would say, is that I'm very thankful to God for granting me the ability to have something to chase, to love, to pour my soul into. With that kind of combination, you can't ever take what I have. You can be inspired by it, but you can never take it. It will always replenish itself. It will always come in new forms. It will always morph. It will always evolve. And it will always look different when I put my hand in it. And I want you guys to understand that for yourselves, that when someone tells you, oh, the market is so saturated, don't do that. That idea has been tried so many times. Don't do that. You're not going to have success because X, Y, and Z did not become successful trying that. Don't do that. Understand that whether they are right or wrong about the end result, the way that you will get there will be different because your hand is in it. Your talent and your craft studying and all that together and your gratefulness for it and your willingness to work at it and keep chipping away at it and understand that you can't just rely on the talent, all of that and your hand in it will have its own result for you. What everyone else has done, where everyone else has been, it will not look the same when you put your hand in it. So please don't get discouraged by bosses who pretend you didn't come up with anything and act as though they got a new idea. Don't get discouraged by people who are in the same craft as you, who are soaking up everything that you have to offer and then doing away with you. Don't be discouraged by the one or two people who were like, man, this was trash. Especially when you got 20 other people who's like, this was wonderful. Don't get caught up. And I know from experience that it's hard not to get caught up in those two little comments of that was trash because you're already doubting your work. If you weren't doubting your work, you wouldn't get caught up with that. You get caught up with it because there's a part of you that's like, was it trash? I mean, I don't feel like it was my best. I mean, I questioned this. I mean, don't do it. You're not going to please everybody all the time. You're not going to put your best work forward each time because the next time is going to be better than the last. So your best piece of work is not even really going to be determined until after you leave here, particularly if you keep working. I had a girlfriend who wrote a series who was so like saddened by how bad she thought it was doing, that it wasn't doing the numbers she thought it was. And this was like a couple of weeks after the series released. And I was like, we ain't even had enough time. What are you basing on? How are you making the decision? How are you finalizing what you think about this thing? It's only been out for a few weeks, 2 months max. Like, what are you doing? And now she's getting all this feedback, all these reviews. People are raving over it, loving it. And she's like, oh my God, I can't believe it. And I was like, time. That's all it took was time. But you got caught up in a couple of people who had little things to say, or the people who was, I wouldn't advise it. Don't do it. You got caught up in that. Luckily, she went with her heart and her soul and she did it anyway. And she went forward and now she feels good about it. It's the source of pride. Don't get caught up. For real. When you got your hand in it, it's different. Your hand is different. Your presence is different. And it's worth it. And people know it. That's why they want to hang around you and take your ideas. That's why they want to tell you don't do it so that they could turn around and do it. That's why they don't want to be visibly supportive, because they understand that if they're visibly supportive, the people who support them will support. And just maybe you might end up with more support than them. Like, don't get caught up. Just do what you know you're supposed to be doing. Track that road. Track it. Like, no matter what the result, your hand make it look different than anybody else's hand in it. All right, that's my soapbox. Okay, guys, but for real, that was on my mind. I wanted to share that with you. If you want to read any of my work, my most recent book, Delectable, is a novel. It's meant to be a novella, but hey, ended up being a novel. Is available. It's Delectable, a sweet romance. It's available on Kindle books. In a minute, it's about to be available on paperback, but we had some issues there, but I'm about to get that out. My other books, Soiled Sheets, as well as Cookies and Crumbles, and In Her Makeup are all available on Amazon Books, Kindle Unlimited. In Her Makeup is actually available on Audible as well as Apple Books. So you can listen to it, you can read it, you can do what you want. You want to order the paperback, it's there. You can do all of that. That would be much appreciated. Please leave a review. Yo, if you want to get at me, slide up in my inbox. You want to discuss some things, definitely reach out to me. I'm at P Writes on Twitter. I'm at P Writes on Instagram. Phoenix Ash on Facebook. You want to join my reader group? It's Phoenix Fireflies on Facebook, and Fire is FIYAH. Come on through. We would love to have you. You know, there's a lot of contests, giveaways, stuff like that. We recently had a giveaway in honor of my 100th episode and me dropping Delectable. It was my first romance novel. So we had a contest there that was really cool. We got a winner for that. So she's going to get her stuff. Shout out to her. But there's a lot of that kind of stuff coming up. There's always like book giveaways on my page or on my publisher's page. I'm published under Be Love Publications if anybody's interested in that. But yeah, get at me. Talk to me. Tell me how it impacts you, or, you know what I mean? Maybe you got some stuff to give me. Make my life better. Child, I'll take it. Anyway, until next time when we can exchange power. Love you. Peace.